Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Keith, aka Media Goon, doing a midweek show this week because I don't know what I'll be doing on the weekend, and who knows when I'll be able to grab my next guest, Joe DeMayo, again. He's going to be blowing up soon. This guy's got a podcast now, a digital show with SNY. I can always say I knew him when. So we're going to talk about Mets. We're going to talk about just the Mets minors. Action figure collecting, what's going on with him. Haven't talked to him in a while in person, usually via text. So let me bring him in. Joe DeMayo, also known as PSL to Flushing on Twitter.
What's going on, Keith? What's happening, man?
Yeah, long time no talk, brother. Long time no talk. So, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on since we've last talked. You have the That's So Mets podcast.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us about that first, and we'll get all the plugs out of the way.
Sure. Yeah, That's So Mets podcast. You could check it out. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you get it. I'm with Connor Rogers, co-host. He typically does NFL draft stuff for Bleacher Report. That's kind of what he's most known for. But me and him have been friends for some time now, and he's wanted to get into Mets podcasting, and it kind of just worked out that we're able to do that. So yeah, That's So Mets pod. We just did episode 42 yesterday, and we do one a week. We're going to be bringing on a YouTube channel and do some YouTube content. So get some video out there, but that one pod a week for sure. So we've been doing it for, almost a year now. It's coming up really quick. So yeah, definitely follow at That's So Mets pod on Twitter, and, check it out wherever you get your podcasts. We have that for sure. And plenty of other fun stuff going on. Like you mentioned, the SNY digital show that's launching tomorrow at 4 p.m. on SNY.TV. It's a digital video show. Myself and Jacob Resnick, who, if you're on Mets Twitter and you follow this stuff, you're probably very familiar with Jacob's work as well, hopefully as mine. But yeah, another guy over at SNY with me, and it's a video series. It's going to be bi-weekly for the whole season. And we're going to talk prospects. We're going to interview some prospects, some coaches, some instructors, and, just a bunch of stuff all around the minors. So it's just, if you're interested in Mets minor stuff, it's really what you're going to be want to check out, every other Thursday. So tomorrow at 4 p.m., the first episode will drop. And I don't know if I'm supposed to tease who the guest is, so I guess I won't, but yeah, you definitely want to check it out. It's definitely a really cool interview.
So we'll just say it's a really cool guest. You can't really tease who it is, but just pay attention. Go watch it, so that way you know who it is. Yeah. You won't be disappointed.
Correct. No, you definitely will not be disappointed, especially if you care about the minors. And I know that prospects have really become a thing that people have gotten more and more into as the years have gone on. When I first started doing this 15 years ago, I was the only game in town that cared about prospects. Now you can find prospect content all over the place. And, I'm glad that a lot of people still come to me for it. But yeah, for sure. It's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to have, like I said, some of the top prospects are going to be joining the show throughout the summer. We're talking about doing some spots potentially at Brooklyn, at the stadium. Forget what they named it after, that hospital that I don't know how to say now. But yeah, we'll be down at the park doing some content there. So definitely look forward to a lot of good stuff from Mets perspective this summer.
Yeah, I think it's Memenides Park. Yeah. I'm probably butchering it too. They couldn't come up with like a shorthand for it or something like that, or NBC Park, Memenides Brooklyn Cyclones Park or whatever like that. But
MCU is so easy, man. MCU is so easy.
I remember Keyspan.
Yep, it's true. Yeah, that's what it was at the beginning. It's true.
Yeah, so yeah, I always pay attention to what Joe has to say with the minors. I don't pay a ton of attention to anybody else just because I have so much other stuff going on. So why do I need to go to other sources except for Joe? So he's pretty good at plugging himself, but I'll say it again. Make sure you go to PSL to Flushing on Twitter. Follow him. You'll be caught up to everybody that seems like they'll be called up to the main roster with all the injuries going on any day now.
They're running out, man. The cupboard's running dry. I mean, they built more depth this offseason than they had in years past. But 14 or 15 guys that were slated to be on the opening day roster or were on the opening day roster on the IL. So you can only have so much real depth before you're, grabbing, Khalil Lee's a guy that I'm high on as a prospect, but it's abundantly clear he's not ready offensively to play in the major leagues yet, but he's up by necessity. And that's why you saw them, trade for Cameron Maben yesterday. And I have to imagine another similar move will be happening in the not too distant future. Don't know who, but I was going to say the $1 man, but I've never felt like I could own a baseball team more than when I realized the Mets acquired a player for $1. I was like, I can do that.
Well, it was funny. Like somebody on Twitter made a great joke to like, in the years past to be like, hey, Cubs, how much for Maben's contract? $1. Hey, we'll give you our top prospect for him instead. How's that sound? Because we don't have $1.
Times are definitely changing financially. There's no question with Mr. Cohen. But yeah, no, the Mets have definitely had a history of trading away prospects for backup outfielders and things of that sort. And hopefully they can step away from that a little bit and, build up this prospect depth because they have some super talented kids up at the top. It's just, it really takes a nice level down from there. That it's not a deep system. It's a very top heavy system with a lot of very young players. Unfortunately, a couple of them already out for the year. So the injuries at the major league level have made their way down to the minors with, for me, just using my prospect rankings. I know a lot of people cite MLB Pipeline or Baseball America. I do the work. I rank my own guys. I'll talk it that way. Matt Allen, right-handed pitcher, who I have number 2 in the system. He got Tommy John surgery a week or 2 ago, so he's out for the year. And just yesterday it came out that number 4 prospect, Pete Crow Armstrong, who they drafted in the first round last year, is getting some weird surgery in his shoulder I never heard of, a Gleason late. I don't even know what the hell it is, to be honest. But I just know it's something to do with the labrum. He had some kind of tear in his labrum. And, when he got initially put on the IL, he got hurt trying to steal second base, slid in, and I was told at the time they thought he just jammed his shoulder on the base, sliding headfirst into second. Obviously, he did more significant damage, and the Mets are saying he is likely out for the season. So I take likely as going to happen, but, ultimately that's 2 of the top 4 prospects in the system that, they didn't play last year either. So that's another thing that I don't even know how to assess. And I don't even know if the Mets or any other organization does either. They lost last year's development because there's no minor league baseball last season. Now they're losing this year. So that's 2 straight years of not playing baseball, and very, very, very tough on them. So, they're hardworking kids. They're both very mature for their age. And, I have the expectation they'll bounce back from their injuries, but I'm very interested to see how this really impacts their development path going forward. How much does it delay when, they get to the point where we're going to see them with the Mets, the big league club. So not sure how it's going to affect them, but yeah, it's definitely a tough blow to lose them both this early.
Now, did Allen ever have like any arms problems before or any other surgeries? Like, sometimes these guys are getting Tommy John surgery early on in their like even college careers.
Yeah, so Allen was a draft pick out of high school when they drafted him 2 years ago in the 3rd round. So he hasn't had any arm trouble of note, at least no surgeries. So this is his first surgery. And, ultimately Tommy John surgery, I don't want to say is inevitable, but it certainly feels more and more like everyone gets Tommy John surgery at some point. And it's his time. And it's unfortunate because when he got drafted in 2019, in 2019, he threw a few games, at the end of the season, like everyone did when they had short season ball, which is not a thing anymore. But when they had that, threw in a few games, got to play for Brooklyn, win a championship with Brooklyn. 2020, no season, so he didn't get to do anything. This season, the minor league season didn't start till May, and he didn't pitch at all. So that's 2 consecutive years of 0 innings pitched. And that's tough.
Now, you might know this better than I do. What did the ball players do, during the offseason last year or the non-season last year to keep in shape for this year?
So it was a mix. I mean, the top guys, the Mets did bring them to the alternate site. So Francisco Alvarez, Matt Allen, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio and Pete Crow Armstrong after he was drafted. Those guys went to the alternate site. So they got some work in, but it was really kind of like intra-squad games. But outside of those guys, really had to fend for yourself. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It's almost like an off season, but for a full year, where it's like it's up to you what kind of shape you're going to be in. It's up to you what kind of work you're going to put in. And I think some early results, we're still only 3 weeks into the minor league season, so I'm not going to go crazy over stats, but I like to think the people that are off the slow starts, maybe that's indicative of what they did. And the people that are off the faster starts, maybe that's indicative of what they did. So it's kind of just like a lengthy off season. And, I know obviously, quite a few guys in the system that I spoke to, and it was really a mixed bag. Some people were training on their own. Some people just found training facilities that were open, probably in states like Florida where they really didn't give a crap about COVID kind of from day one. And they just found places that would, let them work out. So it's really a case by case basis. But most of the people I talked to seem like they got their work in, but there's hundreds and hundreds of people in a minor league system. I'm sure not everyone was equally as motivated as everyone else.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was just trying to figure out. Like, was there, hey, the guys that live in Florida, we're not opening up this site, but we could tell you where to,
sure,
go, or
yeah. I mean, I'm sure the Mets could have had some recommendations for people. I don't know. I feel what I know of people, they reached out to the Mets and said, hey, I want to train at this facility. Are you okay with that? Because, you've seen it over the years. There's always a problem when people go to kind of independent trainers that are not associated with the organization. That's been a problem in the past. I think those times are changing. But, yeah, a few guys had to reach out and say, I want to go to I know a few prospects went to Eric Cressy's in Florida, which is where Syndergaard was rehabbing, and, a bunch of other guys. And a few minor leaguers from the Mets actually went to Cressy's to work out, but they had to reach out to the Mets and make sure it was okay to do so. So yeah, they didn't really set them up per se. But I'm sure they worked with some people, and then they had the instructional league in the fall last year. So they brought their top 50, 60 prospects there, and they did intra-squad games for about a month before they had a mini COVID deal where 2 or 3 guys came down with COVID. So they had to end instructs like 2 weeks early, but yeah, that was really it. Guys did the best they could. Very difficult time.
Now with we're going to go into something that I talk about all the time, like jerseys. What do you think about the Cyclones championship jerseys with the gold?
I like them. I think they look clean. What do you think? You're more of the jersey guy than I am, but to me they look clean. So I know if there's someone that's going to pick them apart, it's you.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the gold. I'm like, I can understand maybe wearing once a weekend or even just like once a series for the month or whatever. I just feel like that's something that's overly done. You won, we'll say like with the Dodgers when they won. It's like, all right, you won last year. You don't have to wear the gold every single time. Maybe opening day weekend or something like that. I just don't see the need for it throughout the whole season.
Yeah, and Brooklyn has their typical red lettering on the front. So no, I get what you're saying, but it looks clean. I don't think it looks outrageous, but I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, yeah, you won a championship. Do you really need to spend 5 months wearing a jersey to talk about it? I get it, but yeah, I think it looks overall clean. And I mean, minor league jerseys, as good as anyone else, they can be pretty crappy. So all things considered, they're not too bad.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I just don't, like you said, I don't think it needs to be worn all the time.
Yeah.
I haven't seen if they did anything with their away jerseys yet. All I've seen is the home jerseys.
Yeah, I don't think the away ones have the gold. I think the gold is just for home.
All right.
The aways are the at least what they've worn so far. I know that they have like the regular gray, but it's the gray with the blue BKLN.
Yeah, and the blue I think sleeves, right?
Yep, exactly. So that's what they've been wearing on the road on the early going.
Yeah, that's not horrible. Have you heard anything if they're doing any kind of promotions this year, like with the, how they always do the Frankfurters or the Nickelodeon or any of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
they haven't announced anything major, but I think they're gonna have, bobbleheads and some giveaways like that throughout the year. But I guess as things open up, they'll probably adjust because obviously, I'm in Connecticut, but I'm privy and aware of what's going on in New York and how that's real. We're getting closer and closer to opening up and doing things kind of normal-ish. And I think at that point, you'll see them probably get more aggressive with their promotions to make it, like you said, a Nickelodeon day. Or, I remember going and they had what's his face, one of the guys from The Office. Like they had the Office Day, and they had one of the guys from the show The Office. So I imagine you'll see stuff like that. Brooklyn's always been really good about having cool promotions like that. So Brooklyn, to me, is one of my favorites. I love the ballpark. I love the location of the ballpark. And they always have, like you said, those fun promotions that are different. Like other minor leagues, affiliates, they'll do bobbleheads, they'll do things like that, like everyone else. But it feels like Brooklyn's one of the few places that do like Star Wars Day, The Office Day, whatever they're into.
Yeah.
And they'll do jerseys for the day that are based on the gimmick of the day there, and they definitely, those could be a little iffy especially for a Jersey guy like you, but I appreciate the effort, and Brooklyn always definitely goes above and beyond for stuff like that. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, with minor league jerseys, I think it's all, if they're doing the promotions, anything goes. It's fine with me.
Yeah, have fun with it. Yeah.
I don't know if because Brooklyn's more of a higher A now, if they're going to be as wacky as they've been in the past.
I mean, if you look at the names of teams now, I think minor league baseball as a whole is embracing it. I mean, there's like rubber ducks out there and flying squirrels, and yeah, there's a lot of crazy names out there. So I think minor league baseball as a whole is embracing the let's just be fun. I mean, minor league baseball is intended, let's be honest, it's intended for the kids in a sense where it's like bunch of giveaways, cheap stuff. You take the family out to the park, have bright colored jerseys, have funny names on the teams. And, it's really geared more towards a family environment. Obviously the big league team, they want, you to take your family there, but prices are a little bit on a different level and maybe not as easy to go to many big league games if you have 2, 3, 4 kids and whatever. Like it makes it, you get pricey really quick. But minor league baseball is definitely geared for that, cheaper concessions, all that stuff. So I think they're being open to being more fun.
Well, the cool thing is, like, if you think about minor league baseball, you're taking the kids to go see kids play. So that way they can grow up with, hey, I remember seeing that player in Brooklyn. Now he's on the Mets. And I remember that at the great time of seeing him there. And at the great time, I was able to go there 10 times with my parents and opposed to like 2 or 3 times at Citi Field.
And that's how I got into the minors at a young age. The New Haven Ravens were 5-10 minutes from my house. And they were a AA affiliate. So I used to see the Binghamton Mets come through. And so I would see players and I'd remember names and then I'd see them on the Mets. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I saw them 10 minutes from my house and maybe I got their autograph or whatever. Like it's definitely like an autograph friendly thing in the minor leagues. Those guys like to sign. I don't know what the rules are going to be with autographs this year, but generally speaking, if you go to a minor league game, you're going to be able to get autographs. These guys are willing to do it. And it's really geared, like we said, towards the kids to watch these guys. And then if you get people into minor league baseball, it's going to help grow the major league game because it's easy to relate. Think about it from a wrestling perspective in a sense. Like, me and you like to go to independent wrestling shows and you see these guys in the independents, and then boom, they're on WWE TV, AEW TV, whatever the case is. And you're like, I'm now more invested in that product because I remember when kind of thing. And it can be a similar trickle effect, I think, for kids with minor league baseball, as long as, they're paying attention to the game and they're into it. Like they can remember they saw, Ronnie Mauricio in Brooklyn and then boom, a couple years from now, he's the third baseman for the Mets or whatever the case may be. It's like, I remember when I saw Ronnie Mauricio, he gave me an autograph. He smiled for a picture for me. He waved at me. Little things like that, they impact kids.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't a kid when I saw them, but NYWC wrestled them in Power Center. So Alex Reynolds was there when he was yours truly, Alex Reynolds, and he had like the Rich Hampton's gimmick. Yep. And then John Silver was John Silver #1 wearing the big John Stud tights when I think he was like 18 years old. young kid with full head of hair, and then seeing them on AEW, it's just like, hey, it's like the band that you discovered when you were younger that made it big. You're like, yeah, I remember those guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And recently, I don't know if you watched AEW Dark last night, but Aaron Rock from Creator Pro was on.
Nice. Awesome.
And what was awesome with that is my friend's Pat Fitzpatrick from Creator Pro. He used to be DJ Fat Pat back in the day, and I ran into him one day working on Gotham, and we hit it off again. I didn't really know him back then, but like I hit it off with him on Gotham, and we've stayed in touch. And he's in the film business too. And he hits me up one day. He's like, "Hey, I know you got a whole bunch of film equipment. Can I borrow some lights?" I'm like, "Sure. What do you need it for?" Well, I'm going over the cap, and I'm shooting a video for somebody, and can you just hook me up with some lights? So I brought over, my flat panel lights that I had for the QBC. I go over. He's shooting the video for Aaron Rourke, so that way he has a Titantron when he goes onto other independent shows, and just do like a YouTube package or whatever, which I thought was pretty cool. So I'm like, hey, that guy was pretty cool. I like his gimmick. I like what he's doing. You can see he's passionate, and that's another one that just popped up the other night, and I'm just like, that's great. I'm happy for him. Just like how you're saying, you see, a kid in the minors and makes his major league debut, and you're like, oh, that's great. I'm so invested in him, even though I didn't really pay attention to him in Syracuse, but I was there for him during Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah. Ultimately, minor league baseball doesn't get followed to that level where, you have nerds like me that do. But, for the general fan, it's like, hey, I went to Brooklyn, or, there's people that live upstate. So maybe it's people that went to Binghamton or went to Syracuse, and, you saw them when they were just one step away from the major leagues kind of thing. So it's a similar type of thing, but it's really based on where you're located. But I love me some Brooklyn, and hopefully we get out there soon. I know we want to do some content there from Mets perspective. And frankly, I just love going to games there. So whether I'm doing stuff for SNY or I'm just going to check out a game, like that's something I really want to do really soon.
We got a comment from somebody I think you might know. Don't forget the Ferris wheel.
Oh, God. Nothing to do with no Ferris wheel. I don't do heights, man. Oh, get out of here. She forced me onto it, and I sucked it up, but wasn't for me, man. I don't do heights. I'm scared. I'm deathly afraid of any kind of heights.
I'm not afraid of heights. I just can't stand them.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want to do it. And I do like going on roller coasters, but I'm not going to lie. Going up, I'll close my eyes. Going down, I'm fine. But that long anticipation going up and just looking around, no thank you.
Yep. I go to amusement parks, and I am the glorified bag holder. Like, everyone wants to go on roller coasters. I'll just chill down here on the ground. I'm good. Not for me. I get it. It's for a lot of people, but not for me.
Christina, agree. Heights are no good. Christina's awesome. I haven't talked to her in a while either. She's a great Mets fan. I used to love hanging out with her at Citi Field.
Yeah, we hang out with her. She's college roommates with my girlfriend. So we definitely we haven't seen her since she came. They actually, her and her boyfriend came up to Connecticut to visit us. So we saw her at some point during COVID, but it's been a minute since we've seen her. But I know she's obviously a diehard.
Oh, she's awesome. I don't. That's probably been like 2-3 years since I've actually seen her in person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I actually remember kind of like her in a way introducing us.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
About it. Yeah. She was like, "Oh, Media Goon?" And I'm like, on Twitter, like, I don't know the guy. And then, at one of the outings, I think she introduced us, and lo and behold, we are such great friends.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, Mets, we're friends because of the Mets, but I think we talk more about wrestling and action figures than we do talk about the Mets.
100%. Yeah, no, it's definitely a cool thing, when we met, and, obviously the Mets brought us together as friends, and, it turns out we just have so many other interests that match up. And we talk wrestling and wrestling figures all the time. No question. That if we scroll our text, we're talking about sending pictures of our latest grabs and things like that. So yeah, for sure.
Speaking of a latest grab.
Oh, you got the NWO Cena?
Yep.
There you go.
Nice. So try to get it.
Yeah.
Trying to get there we go. That's better. No glare.
That's a good one, man. That match, man. Firefly Funhouse, that was totally for me. Like, and then I think cinematic matches have gotten a little out of control, but that one to me, like they nailed that to a T, hitting all of John Cena's old moments, everything. To me, they couldn't have nailed that any better.
Yeah, I think the first Hardy Boys match on the compound and TNA was great.
Yeah,
that set the bar.
That's really what started cinematic is the what they call it, the Ultimate Deletion, or was that the WWE one?
They had a couple. They actually had like 2 or 3 in TNA.
Yeah,
and there was like, I can't remember all the different names they had for them, but it was really cool the way that they set that up. I think the Boneyard match was good with the Undertaker as his last match.
Yeah.
That's the match where he killed Gallows and Anderson, and they never were to be seen again in WWE.
Yep. Yeah.
And then
with the broken stuff, I'm surprised that. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I'm upset that they weren't able to really bring that into WWE and really make it work. I think and obviously it didn't work in AEW either because it seems like he came in as broken and now he's kind of been money mat and changing his gimmick around a lot. It's a real shame, but it seems like it was just it was right time, right place with TNA, and it just simply worked there. And I mean, I was at the WrestleMania where they came back in Orlando. I was there. Probably one of the top 2-3 loudest pops I've been a part of, and I popped huge. They got everybody on the internet. They did a good job of kind of, they posted photos at the airport that they took when they, later on they said they took the picture when they got to Orlando, but they just posted it the night after Ring of Honor. And I went to the Ring of Honor show too, where they had, so the night before Mania, they had a ladder match against the Young Bucks defending the ROH tag titles against the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks won. So they did back-to-back days of ladder matches. And it's just crazy. It's a shame that gimmick didn't work in WWE, but it's definitely a good, memorable one for sure.
I think it didn't work in WWE because originally they couldn't get the rights to it. Then TNA was like, all right, you can have it. We're not going after anybody that created their characters in TNA anymore. Yeah. They can do whatever they want with it. And then by that time, Vince McMahon was already like, whatever. It's not.
It didn't hit as Woken or whatever. It didn't hit right away. If it hit right away, they probably would have ran with it. But the fact that it didn't, it's just like, who cares?
Yeah, and then when it came to AEW, I think it would have lasted if there was a crowd. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why they shifted them, because if you look at it, even the Dark Order, they became even when they had Brody Lee, who was dark and menacing, they were still a comedy troupe then. They went from a cult to more like, hey, these are the weird guys from college that we're going to hang out with from the UC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. And I love what both companies are doing. I mean, WWE's pay-per-view was a disaster this past weekend, but outside of that, all in all, I'm enjoying wrestling program for the most part. I know people love to poke holes in it and rip it to shreds, but I'm very glad that there's 2 options now that are, really, really shining in my eyes with, obviously AEW is doing fantastic stuff. So, but then you got, the small, Impact has got our guy Brian on there and Matt Cardona. So got our major pod guys over at Impact, and Gals and Anderson are there. And you have the partnership there with AEW, which feels it's more beneficial to one side than the other. But they're working that through. And then you got MLW, which I'm, kind of into. One of my buddies is a star there over at MLW, Richard Holiday. Shout him out a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm glad there's a lot of good wrestling going on.
My whole thing with Impact and their partnership with AEW, I'm waiting. There's a slow burn going. I can tell.
Yeah, there's something. There's definitely something. They're not just doing this to have the rights to use Gallows and Anderson here and there or whatever. Like, there's something has to be up. I don't know what it is, but something has to be up.
I feel like, Rich Swann was a good heavyweight champ for a little bit with them, but I think they're going to be building up somebody bigger to go against Kenny Omega. I think the Moose Omega match is going to be good.
I do,
just because of the physicality. I don't know if Moose, I know his contract is supposed to be up soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and he wants to be the Impact / TNA heavyweight champion before his contract expires. So you could have a crazy match between those two. The physicality,
Oh yeah. Sure.
just and then I think that with a few of the other guys that got released from WWE, July 14th, I think is the date that they can come in
Yeah.
to Impact, just like last year. So who knows? You can have somebody debut and beat Kenny Omega.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, what's Samoa Joe gonna do? And if AEW and Impact really are this like partnership, whatever, it doesn't even matter if you sign with Impact, you're still going to be able to do AEW stuff. So,
And don't forget the third wild card, New Japan,
correct. Yeah,
because they're partnering with a little bit with AEW too. So you got all three of them.
and
That could
WWE's reaction is they're looking to partner with MLW. So we'll see if that goes through and what that kind of does.
Well, they did it with Evolve and ended up buying Evolve.
Yeah.
What was the other one that they bought?
Progress? Was it Progress?
Progress too.
UK? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing for me is like the partnership with AEW and Impact. It's kind of like, okay, you're going to put Kenny Omega on Impact programming. That's massive for Impact. Like if WWE and MLW do a partnership, like they're not going to put Roman Reigns on MLW TV. You know, I mean, it's going to be basically like, hey, we're doing you a solid putting your stuff on our network, and maybe we'll send an NXT guy to work there or something like that. But that's what makes it really interesting to me is like AEW and Impact, they have this partnership, and AEW is legit like, we will let our world champion work your show. WWE, it's going to be a different conversation. It's like, maybe we'll give you Walter or something, something like that, who's awesome in his own right, but like they're not going to send Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre, to work an MLW show against, someone like Hammerstone or Jacob Fatu or Holiday, someone like that.
I can see them sending Cesaro.
Yeah, that perfect. And he put on a hell of a match. I don't know if you watch any MLW, but there is some impressive talent there. Like I said, Jacob Fatu is really good, and he's in the whole Samoan family there, so he's a family guy there with the head of the table. So he's a part of all that stuff.
I'm not watching.
I'm not even watching the Mets. We're talking about wrestling here. I'm here to plug Mets stuff, and we're talking wrestling. That's where our conversations go, man. What is Peterson getting rocked? What's going on here?
I can't pull it up on my YouTube TV right now because they're acting up on my web browser. Yeah. I don't feel like turning around to watch it. So it sounds
they want him pull. He's struggling now.
It sounds better. It sounds better that we aren't watching it and we keep talking about wrestling.
Yeah. I could do it all day, man. But yeah, no, for sure. Wrestling fun stuff. Obviously we talk about our action figures a little bit. We don't need to bore people too much with that, but it's been a minute since I really got a big investment. I mean, I think I sent you when I got Series 3 of AEW, got the whole set. I think it was Series 3. Yeah. I got Series 3, got the whole set. And I still kind of check BrickSeek. And if I see there's AEW in stock at a Walmart, I'll drive over to see. But it's been a minute since I've gotten like a WWE Elite, because that's kind of where I reside. It's like elites for guys that I really like, or girls, because I got a Bianca Belair, so girl figure that I like too. But AEW figures, and that's kind of where I'm at. I've avoided going into the retros and getting into all those crazy things. They're putting Hulk Hogan in from the pen. So that's Reed Foley with the mustache, maybe? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, that's the only wrestler Shu probably knows. So
yeah. Yeah, they're yeah. Enough wrestling figure talk. But yeah, Mets, it's crazy. You look at their lineup, man. It's just, it looks like the lineup you'd send on the road to Fort Myers for a spring training game, where like you have to send a couple starters, but you're ultimately going to send a bunch of AAA type guys, and that's where they're at. They've had way too many injuries, and you can only build so much depth. That's really what it comes down to.
Now, people keep forgetting about him. What do you think is going to happen to Cano next year?
I would be surprised if Robinson Cano played another game in a Mets uniform. Unfortunately, his money will hit the books. That's just the way it is. So whether he's on the team or not, he's going to count $20 million against their payroll for luxury tax purposes. There's no way around it. Baseball contracts are guaranteed. And, having him around, I don't know if it's something that they're overly interested in. And, they haven't asked Sandy or anyone about it in some time, but in the spring, he surely didn't sound like someone that was like, oh, darn, really stinks that Cano's gone for the year. Can't wait to have him back next year. It was just like, we'll be able to play McNeil at second base. Makes sense for our team anyway. So I think they really want to wash their hands of a lot of the major stuff that Brody did. And I think Cano is unlikely to play again for the Mets. But, we'll see how the year goes. And if any injuries happen where maybe it makes sense to carry him, they have to pay him anyway. So maybe they will. But I would expect that Cano will probably not play for the Mets next year.
Now, do you think that the Mets might trade for Bryant?
Could happen at the deadline. I mean, that's something that, a lot of people are talking about after they got the dollar guy, Mr. Maben. They're like, well, why don't they trade for Chris Bryant? The reality is the trade market at that level isn't going to open up until at least a month. You're not going to see teams willing to, tank until late June. Like, everyone's still alive, so no one's going to sell. And yeah, I think Bryant is going to be squarely on their radar. JD Davis obviously hasn't done enough for them. Jonathan VR is doing a fine job, but if you're going to be a playoff contender, which even as injured as the Mets are, they're keeping themselves right smack dab in contention in the NL East, and hopefully these guys start working their way back. I mean, Syndergaard had his first rehab start today. DeGrom's doing one tomorrow, and then he should be back after that. Seth Lugo had his. So seems like they're slowly but surely starting to get maybe a couple guys back here, a couple guys back there. As long as they can contend, they should certainly be looking at the deadline to find somebody that can help. And I think the lineup hasn't performed to expectations, and Chris Bryant is playing at an MVP level through the early going. So if the Cubs want to trade him come a month from now, I imagine the Mets will certainly be a team on the other side of the phone talking.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of Bryant since he actually came up in the league. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing him at third. I think he'd be a great upgrade, and he also could play the outfield too if you had to.
Absolutely, yeah. He plays a decent amount of corner outfield. It's not like they try not to use him out there and do it in a pinch. Like, they have no problem starting him in right or left field. And that's really what he came up as when he was coming through the minor leagues. I remember when he was drafted, actually, because the MLB draft is, again, something that I'm really into that a lot of people aren't. When he got drafted out of the University of San Diego, which is not exactly like a baseball hotbed. San Diego State has produced a lot of pros, but University of San Diego, like, the only other one I could think of off the top of my head is Paul Sewald. Like, I'm sure there's more, but Sewald is one, Chris Bryant. And he was a left fielder in college. And they were like, yeah, he'll play some third. And, he ended up being more of a third baseman, but he could absolutely play the outfield if you need him to.
Crazy thing about Paul Sewald, I actually have a pair of his game used cleats that I bought just to help out with the charity auction.
Nice. Yeah, he's in Seattle now, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of ex-Mets in Seattle right now.
Yeah, Seattle, it's funny. I mean, our guy flexing it over there, over your shoulder, the jersey, flexing's there. And obviously, he who shall not be named prospect. And, they have a bunch of former Mets over there. It's pretty funny.
I'm so over everybody bringing up Kelenic and about like, oh, the Mets gave him. It's like, it's a new regime. We got it. Yeah. Enough. You could be upset about it, but who's the mainstream reporter that's just being super annoying right now about it? Is it Lennon?
Everyone's being annoying about it. Let's be honest. Yeah. To me, like, I don't have it in me to sit there and just tweet about Kelenic all the time. I'm just like, dude, he's probably going to be really good. I don't know what to tell you. They traded him. they shouldn't have, we could talk until we're blue in the face how they screwed up. Brody screwed up. It is what it is. There's nothing you could do about it. Edwin Diaz is pitching really good. So if Edwin Diaz, like if the Mets, but if the Mets end up really contending and being, a World Series team, if Edwin Diaz closed out Game 5 of the World Series or Game 6 of the World Series and the Mets won the World Series, I would forget about Jared Kelenic really quick. It stinks that he's not a Met because it'd be really nice to be able to add him instead of, Cameron Maybin to the roster. But it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. It stinks that they did it. I think he's going to be really good. Every indication I had coming through the system was, when he got drafted, they thought they were drafting a player that was comparable to Christian Yelich. That's what they thought they were getting. So if he ends up at that level, it's going to really hurt if he actually ends up fulfilling all of his upside. But he's still a prospect, man. He's still got to develop. You still got to do it. Like, I think people are looking for ways to rag on the Mets, and that's kind of how it always is and always will be. You have to kind of accept that. But just because he's a top prospect doesn't mean he's automatically a superstar. Let us not forget, Ahmed Rosario was by more than one place ranked as the best prospect in baseball when he was in the minor leagues. So, and obviously he didn't pan out to be a star. Like, he's just an okay big leaguer. So it's not a slam dunk. I feel like it might be the Mets' luck that Kelenic's going to end up very good, just because that's seemingly the luck of the organization. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm not going to sit there, and you're not going to see me tweeting out Jared Kelenic's, stat lines and things like that. Like, I'm over it. It stinks. Nothing I can do about it. What's the point? And I don't like to live in that realm of just being upset about things. It's just not for me.
I've been a Mets fan long enough to know that there's players that the Mets should have held on to that turned out to be good players. You could say that about any team, the Rangers, the Knicks. It's always happened. One player, big deal. I mean, if it's somebody that is a superstar like a Trout, fine. Yeah. I can understand. I can understand you complaining in 10 years when he's putting up Hall of Fame numbers.
Yeah.
But he just barely got into the league this year. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve to be, but he's been in less than a week, right?
Yeah, let him do it. Let him do it first, and we'll eventually circle back. But yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be tough on Twitter and places like that. People are following Jared Kelenic as a way to say, like, what the Mets screwed up with. That's how I look at it. I look at that that's how people want to be. I can't be that way. That's not me. But some people are that way, where it's like, look, they're going to follow Kelenic as a way to criticize the Mets for what they did. That we already know they screwed up. Like, they did. They took a contract that no other team in baseball was willing to take and gave an elite prospect in the deal. Those two things typically don't happen together. So Brody got as a rookie GM that came from the agent world, and what can you do about it?
Brody got. Will Ponds are gone. Brody's gone. New regime. New front office. It's like, hey, so the writers of Avengers, they did a sucky job, but we're gonna pan the guys that are writing Avengers 2, even though they haven't really done anything yet. I'm only 10 minutes into the movie.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You have to let these things play out. And, Steve Cohen is investing a lot of capital into this organization, not just obviously gave Francisco Lindor $300 million and, payrolls up there. So they're going to spend money on players, but he's investing a lot behind the scenes. I mean, they're building up a stark analytics department that they're grabbing guys from the Dodgers, guys from the Astros, like these top flight analytical organizations. They're taking guys from that team with Steve Cohen's resources. So they're going to be just fine. You have to give it some, a little bit of time to really come into motion, but they want to build a pitching lab in Port St. Lucie where they can break down deliveries at such a granular level with I'm trying to think of the good word, but basically like a video game in a sense. You put the little things on, and they'll break down your delivery and where you can improve here. So make little adjustments to help people. It's like those are the kind of things that are gonna, in the long term, it's not something we may really reap the benefits of in 2021 or even 2022. But as we go forward and they really have a true system in place, you'll see this thing turn around. I mean, they're in first place, so let's not act like they're in the dumpster and they stink. But I think you're going to see a team that's going to be routinely near the top of the sport.
Yeah. Need a redo like Justice League. No, that sucked too. I don't care what anybody said, that the Zack Snyder cut was horrible.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I've heard mixed. Let's say that.
It's just the fanboys thinking that Zack Snyder, oh, it's such a great idea. He didn't have a Zack Snyder cut. He had to add so much of extra photography to it to make the movie whole. He had an idea, which if you look at his other two movies that he did, Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, they weren't that good either. So no redo like that. Get me fired up about comic books now.
That's something where I'm casually into the MCU a bit. I'm not on DC at all, so I don't know any of the stories. I watched all the 22 or whatever MCU movies. I have to get on Disney Plus and watch that stuff, like the Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Yep, I have to get on that, and then WandaVision.
No, we need cyborgs to play on the Mets. Give it a couple of years, everybody will be a cyborg.
Yeah. Truth.
Yeah. WandaVision I liked. Falcon and Winter Soldier was okay. It was a little slow at times, but I still liked it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the best thing that's been on Disney Plus, but it's decent. It's watchable.
And it's probably important for like this next phase of movies that are working their way coming out. I imagine like it's going to be important to have seen the things on Disney Plus to tie things together. I imagine. Like I can't imagine they just randomly put out series for the sake of doing it. Like there's going to be some connection.
Yeah, they're doing it basically the way they originally intended Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to tie into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the stuff that was on Hulu. They canceled a whole bunch of stuff that was supposed to be on Hulu too. So they're trying to make it more cohesive. WandaVision, I think, ties into Doctor Strange too.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna interweave, which you're gonna have to. Yeah. I don't know if you have to really pay it too much attention. You could probably just go on Wikipedia and see what happened.
Sure. Yeah. But I like to watch it. Like I watched I didn't see most of the MCU movies in theater. Like I saw the latter few, but I went and I watched them in like the order that online said you should, and then that really tied stories together. And then by time I made sure I did it before Endgame came out. So I made sure I was ready for Endgame, so that we went to see Endgame in the theater, and I had seen everything. And I almost think it was almost a benefit to me because I didn't watch all these movies over a decade. I watched these movies in 2 months, 3 months before, so everything was super fresh, every part of the story. So when things were happening, I was like, okay, remember that from this, remember that from this. So to me, I think that helped my enjoyment of Endgame, was the fact that I watched everything so close to it. So it's not like I forgot things over a decade, period of time. Like if you just simply went and watched, the first Captain America when it first came out, and you didn't rewatch it, you're not gonna remember things from it, kind of thing.
Unless you're crazy like me that remembers that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I'm such a comic book geek and movie geek. Yeah. It's just like the first two Thor movies are horrible. Thank God for Taika Waititi that came in and did Ragnarok. It just reinvigorated that whole Thor character.
Yep, absolutely.
Maybe we can get him to go hang out with Syndergaard and actually learn how to tweet better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Noah's physically doing those tweets, but
well, if it's either him or his PR team, they're both very soft because they blocked me for saying stop with the Mr. Met stuff. It's not funny anymore.
Well, No, Noah follows me, so I love me. I love Noah. I've interviewed him a couple times in the minor leagues. He's actually a really good dude. So, Twitter game aside, I like me some Noah Syndergaard.
I'm about to send David Wright over to his house and throw out his lunch again.
Yeah, that's a story. That's a story. I know David told that on with Julia and Darren. I think they talked about that there. One of the interviews. I saw David do a bunch of interviews, but at some point I heard him talk about the sandwich story with Syndergaard. So
That's something I would totally do to somebody. I
and it
could
was
see it.
yeah, and it was clear. Like David was like, "Look, I think people make a bigger deal of it than it was. It's not like." He was sitting there and I ripped the sandwich out of his mouth. It was like, you can't eat this, and slammed it in the trash. It was a little different than that, but yeah, it's definitely a funny story to think back on.
You know what? I pitch some stuff to the Mets every now and then that they should do like animated stuff.
Yeah.
Use Graphics Joker, use Majo, and to do some storyboards. And could you imagine somebody like really playing up that whole Syndergaard thing, and then all this
thing,
make it Thor's origin story after he threw the sandwich out, and next thing you know, he gets hit with lightning and becomes Thor because that invigorated him.
Yeah, that would be funny. That would be fun. And Graphics Joker and Majo, like you said, would be awesome for that.
Yeah, they're great for that. Like I talk to them almost from going from like never talking to them. I talk to them almost every day.
Yeah,
it's cool. Like they've been my guest host, but they haven't been on in like 6 shows. They've totally ghosted me. I think I've scared them.
They've had enough of you, Goon.
I'm surprised you came back on.
Yeah. Hey, man. We haven't done it in a minute. And no, it's definitely good to link up with you and just talk about everything, because we text, but like grown adult men, how much are we really going to be texting? It's not like we're going to talk elongated like this. It's just like, hey, this, hey, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I'm definitely glad to do this with you. And, hopefully some people watched it. I know we had a few comments, granted, a couple more of the same people, but hopefully we had some people watch it. And obviously always happy to promote my stuff too, because, I take the time to do it. So might as well talk about it when I can.
Yeah, you're one of the guys that have helped me try to teach Majo how to promote himself.
Yeah, he still doesn't have it.
Majo has no mojo.
Yeah, he's still at a first grade level. He's got to get going. I said I'd take him under my wing. Haven't heard from him, so I don't think he cares.
He probably lost his phone.
Probably.
All right, so let's go over that So Mets podcast one more time. What people could expect from that, and then we'll do the digital SNY. What's Mets prospect?
Mets perspective.
Yeah, that thing. I looked at the graphic once. I'm not gonna lie. So at least I was close.
Yeah, you were close. I mean, yeah. So ultimately, follow me on Twitter at PSL the Flushing if you don't already. Follow the podcast at That's So Mets Pod on Twitter, and subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do so, please leave us a 5-star review. We've earned it, in my opinion. 5 stars, leave 5 stars, and write reviews. All that stuff really matters. Like, I'm fine. I'm like in the game to the point where like I'm starting to understand the algorithm, and how we're going to grow is more and more people showing that love. We get a good amount of listeners. We're getting 2,000-3,000 downloads a week, so we're getting a good amount of listeners, and we just need those reviews to start coming in, and just pump that up so that way we start showing up on charts and things like that, and more people can find us. We're going to be expanding to some YouTube content in the very near future. We've talked about that on the podcast the last couple of weeks, so very soon we're going to be doing some reaction type stuff. We're going to stick to 1 pod a week. That's what the kind of format we want to keep, but we want to be able to come on, if they have a nice walk-off win, we want to be able to hop on for 5-10 minutes, talk about it, take some questions from people, things like that. So we want to expand there. We'll be doing that in the near future. And then of course, check out my writing on SNY.TV. And then of course, like you mentioned, Mets Perspective launches tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern on SNY.TV in the digital section. and you'll get to see this mug every couple weeks on air. We'll be interviewing different prospects, different coaches, different people within the organization, and then Jacob Resnick and I are just going to be going back and forth on prospects. So a lot of content coming from me, and really excited to keep doing it, and love the support that you and a lot of people have given me. So I wouldn't be here if other people didn't support me.
I don't know what platform you guys are using besides YouTube to do your reaction shows or whatever.
Yeah.
Huh? I lost you for a second.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you. I was gonna say if you
I could definitely use some help. We're both novices at it, but we know that it's something we can work through. So me and you will talk about it.
All right, I'm just gonna throw this out here right now. We do have a Queens Baseball Convention channel that we have a pretty good popular show with the Media Goon show and Catching Feelings with John Sapronaro. I wouldn't mind building the network. So if you guys wanted to do something, we already have the system out there. So guys, stay tuned. Maybe, probably not, but maybe.
We'll talk about it, Keith. We'll talk about it. But I definitely need your help one way or another. That's for sure.
I'm going to hold them hostage. Yeah. All right. Just hang by. I'm going to sign off, and then I'll talk to you in a second.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Check me out at Media Goon, QB Convention, Queens Baseball Convention, themediagoon.com. Like and subscribe this channel. It would be great if we can monetize it one day. We need followers. We need views. We need subscriptions. We need likes, notifications. Hit us all up. Thanks for watching. Joe, thanks. He went over everything. Just circle back, rewind a little bit. He'll follow him like crazy at PSL The Flushing. Follow him over there on Twitter. That'll hook you up with all the different projects he has going on. And I'm going to go kidnap him, hold him for ransom and hostage, and maybe try to get him on our channel. It probably won't happen. These guys are smart. They have a plan already. All right, everybody. I'm going to see you soon. Have a good one. Peace.